If I'm not qualified when the customer shows up asking me to solve that problem, then it's too late to start. Software engineers. We now have artificial intelligence that will write applications for you, that you can train the AI to write it based off your previous source code. Technology is going to help us overcome the skills gap in almost every market today. A lot of skills workers, lawyers, accountants, software engineers, hardware engineers, I now will have software that can do most of what they do today and probably do it better.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their expertise, delve into the latest tech trends, and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov, and today I'm excited to have Kevin Price, the founder and the CEO at AccuCode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new episodes. Hi, Kevin.
Good morning. How are you,
Thanks
Oleg?
for joining me today. I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm good. Beautiful day here in Colorado.
Kevin, could you please start by telling us about your journey from your early career experience to founding AccuCode?
My first job out of college was working for NCR in Lubbock, Texas. Graduated from the University of Oklahoma and immediately moved out to Lubbock for the job. And it was not a dream job, let's just say that. I was selling paper rolls and printer ribbons and labels and supplies for all kinds of different printing applications. It was very boring. And the division of NCR was very old and out of date. They had over 450 salespeople covering the United States at that point in time. Today, they've got 4. It wasn't a sustainable model, let's just say that. But that introduced me to the barcode industry, and that led me to this career path. I moved to Colorado in 93, and I ended up launching AccuCode in 95. And the rest is history, as they say. I quit my job on a Friday. I worked for one other company in between there, a hardware company, and that was my first exposure to the hardware side of the business. And then I literally quit my job on a Friday afternoon and started this on Monday.
What inspired you to start venture into the world of barcode technology?
It was the mid-90s. Barcode was still relatively new. A barcode scanner at that time cost $2,000. Adjust that for inflation today, you're talking $6,000-$7,000 barcode scanner. That was terrible. And it came with a catalog, like literally this thick, of all the different cables and adapters you might want to use to hook it up to your dumb terminal. And the company I was working for was poorly managed and treated their employees poorly. And after a year of working for them, I decided that self-employment was preferable, and that if they were the competition in this sector, that I liked my odds. And I literally quit on Friday and started this on Monday. And I went out and called on all my existing customers and turned some of them into my first customers here. And Wilkerson Corporation, which is today a division of Berkshire Hathaway, was actually my first customer. I did very well. I showed up and listened and learned and immersed myself in the industry. And today I'm acknowledged as an industry expert, and I know the technology inside and out. I bought my first computer when I was about 9 years old. I bought a Commodore 64 and taught myself BASIC. And I've been studying electrical engineering and chemistry and physics since I was a little kid. And I love technology. I love the process of applying technology. And since 1995, we've literally applied it to just about every kind of business environment, process, and application you can think of, from aerospace space to meat packing and circuit board manufacturing and grocery stores and office supplies and all kinds of things.
At a technology incubator, what criteria do you look for when considering new ventures or divisions to add to the AccuCode ecosystem?
So today, the way I think about what we do at AccuCode, I refer to it as distributed device populations. And going back to the mid-90s, when we first started doing network infrastructure, you had to have an FCC license to put up an access point. There was no such thing as Wi-Fi yet. Mobile computers were running DOS and a VT terminal emulation session. And the barcode scanners were very expensive, but they were all distributed device populations. And they came with certain challenges. Once you acquired them and deployed them, now there's the challenge of keeping them, updated and maintained and supported. And once they're actually out in the field, that becomes hard. And that is still to this day, that's the core of what AccuCode does. One generation after another, we've been the distributed device population guys. And today we think about it differently, but the size of those populations has increased exponentially from one generation of technology to the next. My job now is to watch down the road to identify those new technologies that are going to be the next generation of distributed device populations. Today, for us, it's network infrastructure. We do tens of thousands of on-site installation visits a year, installing networks in commercial environments, industrial mobile computing devices, point of sale infrastructure, security cameras, IoT sensors. All of these kind of distributed device populations all come with similar challenges when it comes to acquisition, deployment, service support, running the spare pool, keeping the firmware updated, keeping the software updated, making sure they're still secure. All of those things have to have a process and a validation behind them in order to support them on scale. That's what we do for lots of different companies. And it's allowed me to grow year after year. Out of 29 years, we have 25 years of 20% or better top line revenue growth.
Impressive. Very impressive. AccuCode has grown to include various divisions and operations in North America and the European Union. Could you share some insights into the strategic expansion and diversification of the company?
Sure. I'm always looking for that next thing. The last three companies that Cisco acquired in the networking sector, I was a partner with those companies before Cisco acquired them. Fetch Robotics, my biggest vendor today is a company called Zebra Technologies. One of their latest acquisitions is a company called Fetch Robotics. And about 2 years before Zebra bought them, I partnered with Fetch Robotics. Now I'm in the 3D printing space. In 2014, I had a partner that was getting into the 3D printing sector, and I let them convince me to jump into the 3D printing sector with them. They actually exited the sector about a year later, and I ended up deciding to stay in it. I have a 3D printing lab here in Colorado and another in Dallas. You mentioned the EU, so we never really built any operational facilities in the EU, but I opened up an R&D facility in partnership with the University of Limerick out of Ireland. I found Ireland to be a very appealing environment for R&D. They had a lot of tax credits and tax shelters set up in Ireland that if you create the intellectual property there, you can pay yourself royalties through Ireland, and you pay about 6% on that kind of income there. Apple and Google have made Ireland their R&D centers because of that tax environment, and it's saved them billions of dollars because they funnel their profits from around the world through royalties in Ireland, and they pay ridiculously low tax rates there for it. Plus, there was an incredibly well-educated labor force there. I ended up shutting that facility down during COVID, but I kept my R&D, one of my R&D engineers. He's got a master's degree in artificial intelligence. He's an electrical engineer and a software engineer, originally Romanian born. He and his family live in Ireland still today. He's built multiple generations of equipment for us now. We're building a new tread depth reader for fleet management applications. We've got an artificial intelligence kiosk that has visual cognition and natural language chatbot abilities in a very low cost form factor. We got one more. We're building some visual cognition inventory management applications for our own internal use right now. So it's all about, if you want to be an expert in the next generation of technology that's going to be acquired and deployed on scale, you have to have been in it for a couple of years, learning from it and getting deep into it. Because as I say, if I'm not qualified when the customer shows up asking me to solve that problem, then it's too late to start. You have to be ahead of the curve. You have to make the time and make investments into the new technologies. Artificial intelligence and additive manufacturing are the cutting edge of where we're at today. And I'm still ahead of the market. Most of my customers have not done any commercial scale deployment of those technologies yet, but they will over the next 10 years.
How big is your development team, R&D team?
We have 2 dedicated engineers in our software R&D team and 1 engineer that's building electrical circuit boards and AI software. So only 3 people in our R&D team.
Okay. What are some of the most significant industry trends you have observed in enterprise mobile computing and automated data collection technology?
The visual cognition. There's RFID is getting another opportunity in the market right now. You've got 2 very large global set of standards that have been established just in the last couple of years. What's called the GS1 used to be the UCC. Now it's called GS1, but they've established some multinational standards now around perishable food supply chain as well as pharmaceutical supply chain tracking. There are now mandates to start putting RFID tags on every bottle and case of pharmaceuticals sold and shipped around the world. And the intention is to use that RFID to secure that supply chain and to make sure that the drugs flowing through it are legitimate and not counterfeit. In perishable supply chain, they've got a new set of standards around tracking temperature exposure and chain of custody. And they're using RFID to collect all that temperature data and store it to keep track of who touched the produce at what time and how long it was there. Those technologies, RFID had an opportunity back in around 2000, 2003 timeframe to do some of these same kind of applications. And it ultimately failed because it was too expensive and unreliable. I actually believe that this will be a short-lived experiment with RFID again. And I think visual cognition is a much more cost-effective and practical solution for both of those problems today. We now have the ability using very inexpensive cameras, including visible and infrared, meaning I can do temperature very easily with a camera now. I don't need to put a sensor on every container in the truck to tell you what the temperature in the truck was. I can have a camera there that can watch the inventory and monitor all the temperatures at the same time. And I can use artificial intelligence to create a much more intelligent set of alerts using off-the-shelf computers and off-the-shelf cameras now. When it costs $10,000 to do a dock door with an RFID antenna that can read all of the tags coming out of the back of a truck, I don't know how you can cost justify solving that problem with that amount of budget when I can do the same thing with cameras for probably less than $1,000, maybe $2,000. I think visual cognition is the future of a lot of applications in lots of different industries. Baggage tracking at the airport, loss prevention in retail. Those things are already happening, and we've seen that in our own business. Cameras are now the 3rd largest hardware category for our business, and that just happened in the last 3 years.
Why did Amazon stores that work without people didn't work at the end? I don't think they worked out, right? The experiment wasn't successful.
Yeah, it was called Amazon Go, and they were using visual cognition to basically keep track of what you picked up and put in your cart. Ultimately, I don't know why they gave up on that model. My guess would be that it was a little too early from a social standpoint. There just aren't enough people that are really comfortable with that kind of technology. I've talked to consumers about it. It's a little creepy. There was a startup out of San Francisco called Standard Cognition, and they were a competitor to the Amazon Go format. And we did one of their first pilot sites, all of the installs. And they had almost 300 cameras in a small convenience store sized business and a set of Dell servers in the back. And they were producing about 2 petabits of video a day. Yeah, it's a lot. And they were having to analyze all that video at the edge in the store, and they were only passing up the metadata, exception events, back to the cloud for analysis, and the rest of it is all being acted on at the store level or not. Today, I think it was just a little bit early. We did that project, that was probably 6-7 years ago. The consumer wasn't ready. The technology was cumbersome and expensive. Now we have cameras that are designed specifically for these kind of applications where it's not a single camera, it's 3 cameras in an array. And that gives me much higher resolution and much better accuracy as to what you're picking up. They tried to solve that problem without involving the consumer's own device. I believe they should have been using the consumer's mobile device and an application on there in conjunction with the cameras in the store, and it would have been a much smoother customer experience. But they tried to avoid putting anything on the consumer's device or having the consumer looking at their device while they were shopping. And I think that was one of the mistakes they made. I think you'll see that application come back in the next few years. But right now, there are still retailers putting it out, but it's being used more as a supplement to the existing checkout process than it is a replacement. They're watching what you bought or sold because for loss prevention reasons. They're watching the cashiers, they're watching the customers for loss prevention reasons, but they're still running the traditional point of sale application.
I thought that they had application on the phones of customers.
They did, but it was really only for checking into the store and putting your payment information in. You
And
weren't
that's
using,
it?
yeah, you weren't
This
using,
one I didn't know.
yeah, you didn't use it to shop. You only used it to identify yourself when you walked in the store. They had an app on the phone that identified you as you and tied you to your Amazon Prime profile, but it didn't actually have you doing any shopping with the device. It's a so much easier problem to solve if the consumer just scans the products they actually want to put in the cart with their own device. And then the other cameras become validation, not the sole source of identification. If I pick stuff up and I put it back on the shelf, they had problems detecting what I put back and what I put in my cart. And it'll happen. It's just going to take a minute. Baggage. I know 2 or 3 different competing projects right now where they're trying to basically use cameras to track your bag through the airport instead of RFID or barcodes. With time and date and an exact weight of your bag and images of your bag at check-in, I can track that bag all the way through the airport. Those are 3 really unique identifiers. And if I can weigh it and I can see it, I can tell you whose bag it is with 100% accuracy. And I don't even need a barcode to tell you whose bag it was because they're all enough scuffed. They've got enough uniqueness to them that I can now identify those bags very readily with cameras. And it's so much more efficient and faster than the way they do it today. You know, there's still baggage handlers carrying mobile devices, pointing a pistol style mobile device and pulling the trigger to scan every one of those barcodes. You know, they're having to scan thousands of barcodes a day. And that's very time consuming and cumbersome. And they still lose a lot of bags.
This is very interesting, Kevin. Your vision is really a vision of the future. Could you comment on the challenges associated with the shortage of qualified specialists in the IT sector, particularly in relation to your business?
So, one of the things that AccuCode has done that has always made us different is that in addition to being a hardware VAR, an integrator, and a service provider, we also have been a software as a service developer. And I've sold 3 different software as a service commercial products in the past. Our latest product is a product called 4Work, the number 4 and work. We built that system to allow us to take the expertise of one engineer and go apply it to as many people as I need to today to do the work. 3D printing is one of those markets where there literally are not enough qualified mechanical engineers on the planet to go install, operate, service, and support all of the 3D printers that the world is going to deploy. My software allows me to take the expertise of one mechanical engineer, go build a set of 8th grade reading level step-by-step instructions so that I can walk you through unboxing the printer, setting the printer up, loading it with materials, setting up a best practice approach to printing each type of material, and teaching you how to troubleshoot and quality control. And all of those things can be built as processes and documented, where the software is then watching the outcome and collecting data about how it turned out and why. At AccuCode, that runs every aspect of our daily operations. It runs our help desk. It runs our warehouse picking, stage kit configure and fulfillment. It runs our field service operations. It allows me to use thousands of 1099 contractors in the field to go do really complex installations in all kinds of different environments, because we can take the whole project and break it down into highly customized step-by-step set of instructions and then validate that they were followed and how it turned out and why. It also allows us to get more accurate data for our billing. We're able to share with our customers within 24 hours of completion of work exactly what it costs to do that site and why. We share real-time visibility with our trading partners and with our customers on everything we're working on together so that we all know what's going on and how it turned out. And it just saves us enormous amounts of time and money. And it allows us to go take resources from often employment agencies where they may have little or no prior technical experience, and their first day on the job, they're doing high volume technical tasks. And it allows me to go take a very small engineering staff and make them look much larger because they write the process and the step-by-step instructions, and then I can put as many people behind that process as I need to today to go do that on scale. And that I believe you're going to see artificial intelligence and other applications like for work over the next 10 years. That this is how you're going to bridge the skills gap in so many different markets, like software engineers. We now have artificial intelligence that will write applications for you, that you can train the AI to write it based off your previous source code. So you can literally use your existing applications to train the AI to go build applications your way. And that's all coming. And that means that technology is going to help us overcome the skills gap that we have in our, in almost every market today. And it's going to be an interesting time to be alive the next 20 years as we watch this happen. But a lot of skills workers, lawyers, accountants, software engineers, hardware engineers, I now will have software that can do most of what they do today and probably do it better.
How AI can represent a lawyer in a court?
It's already happened. We've already had an artificial intelligence argue in front of the Supreme Court of the United States.
Really?
And it performed exceptionally well. There, of course, had to be an attorney there to basically deliver what the AI said, but because it wasn't legal to do that yet. But we're already testing this. And growing up in Oklahoma, my father was a district judge. He was actually the youngest elected judge in the state of Oklahoma history. And I grew up in the courthouse. And the law is all about being able to memorize the made up rules that make up our legal system. And the guy who can manipulate those words and apply them most advantageously is the one who's going to win. And the AI can be taught from every case and every trial that's ever happened and can literally know things that no other lawyer is ever going to be able to assimilate that way and do a better job. I've already been using it to write contracts at AccuCode. It does a fabulous job of writing contracts, saves me a ton of time and money. I'm hoping here in the next 12 months that we'll be using AI to write our statements of work and to do most of our quoting and estimating for our physical deployment projects, because we've got years worth of data to train the AI with on how we've done it historically. We can show them projects that turned out well and projects that didn't turn out well. And that's what I need to train. And I've been collecting the data with that intent now for years. And we are in the process of building our algorithms now. And that's one of my biggest hurdles for growth in the future is how fast can I quote it and how accurately can I estimate what it's going to cost to do this. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we have today. Almost every customer wants the same thing, but none of them are the same. No two banks, even when they're both Bank of America, they're not the same. When you go do large chains of restaurants, and it's the same thing. Even though they're all the exact same restaurant, they're in a different building with different architecture, different materials, different design. And so I end up with these little variations at every site that could be very expensive. But we plan the process in a way and we create validation and quality control so that we're able to give a highly tailored outcome, but with very consistent quality and performance, even though each site has a lot of differences. That's a testament to process and documentation. And now we have AI to put on top of all of that data and process and to go run it more efficiently. That's the direction we're moving in.
Transitioning to discussion on IT outsourcing. In your opinion, what are the main advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, and how do you navigate these factors to maximize benefits?
I will say, in general, I have leaned away from outsourcing. What we do for outsourcing is in our field installation work, we use almost exclusively 1099 contractors in the field to go do all of that work. They are often, they're local contractors in their market. They often are low voltage electricians or cable installers or things like that, because a lot of what we're doing is more akin to construction work, because we're drilling holes in walls and pulling conduit and pulling fiber or Ethernet cable. We're installing antennas and access points and routers and switches and security cameras and those kind of things. And I'm taking the process of installing and doing that and breaking it down into step-by-step instructions. We have an SMS engine that runs the interaction with the field tech. We have about 600 or so techs that we use on an ongoing basis across the United States right now. Some of them we've been using for almost 10 years, and they're running their own business. And we're giving them an opportunity to be a contractor to us. We do hire and staff through agencies. We just added a couple of new project managers here, and they came from staffing agencies. We ultimately hope to turn them into full-time employees, and we're managing them, and they're not really outsourced. We just use somebody to hire them. For the most part, that's how that's our version of outsourcing. I've had some application development done. We hired a partner out of India to build a software application. It turned out terribly. The quality was a constant issue. Performance was a constant issue. The interpretation of the functional requirements. We drove the functional requirements and they coded it, and they often just missed it. And I found that is almost always the case, especially when you're going to a foreign country. And if you're not going to a foreign country, then I don't know why you're outsourcing it, because the cost of doing it in-house versus outsourcing it here is about the same. I can go hire my own software engineers and manage the project myself. And going to an agency here in the US, I've not had any success with. I do know some good ones. I've got some friends that actually run those kind of businesses, and they do very well. But as I say, that business model is artwork. It's a very difficult way to make a living, because every project is its own unique work of art. And if you don't have the necessary technical understanding of the business process and use case, you're quite likely going to build software that nobody's ever going to want. And the problem is I have to have an expert, somebody that really understands that business problem and process and use case, driving the functional requirements for that application and how the software is going to be built, or I end up building something that doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Absolutely agree. About your experience with Indian vendor, I wouldn't agree that it applies to all countries, all foreign countries, but
That's a gross overstatement.
But there are countries where vendors, I would say they have similar mentality, understanding of business requirements. Not all of countries can be proud of that, because especially mentality difference between India and the United States is quite big.
Before the war, the Ukraine was a very, very popular place for outsourcing all kinds of engineering projects too. My R&D engineer in Ireland is from Romania, and he's got a master's degree in AI. He's got a degree in electrical engineering and a degree in software engineering. He's almost like an outsourced resource because he doesn't work here on site with the rest of us. He's able to take relatively high level functional objectives and interpret that and build a usable product very quickly. It's impressive. He's designing the circuit boards and the firmware, and we have Chinese vendors or Eastern European vendors that then actually build the prototype boards for us. And we're able to turn stuff around very quickly. It's amazing what you can build with such a small team now. We've built whole artificial intelligence devices from scratch, hardware, software, firmware, and done so in a matter of months with just a couple of engineers.
How do you see the role of IT outsourcing evolving in the context of your industry, future needs and demands?
Artificial intelligence is blowing up right now, and I'm seeing a lot of specialized agencies who are focused, in some cases, on different use cases like video production or sales and marketing implementation of artificial intelligence. There are literally now thousands of new products that have hit the market just in the last couple of years. It's becoming almost a full-time effort to try and keep up and identify potentially valuable partners and tools. You're going to see agencies where that's all they do is consult with customers on how to go apply artificial intelligence and the appropriate hardware to that customer's specific use case and application. I met with a company in Ireland back before COVID, and their whole business is publishing financial reports on publicly traded companies from around the world, and they publish them in almost every language that's spoken on the planet. And they've been in business for over 50 years, and they're producing, hard copy and digital copies of board meeting notes and annual reports and financial statements from every public company around the world, from every financial market around the world. And they've got an army of 1099 interpreters who are going through every one of those documents and translating them into another language. We're now to a point where artificial intelligence is going to be able to read almost all of those documents and accurately translate them and reformat them into whatever language you want to read them in. And just a beautiful example. Unfortunately, that means that probably a couple of thousand interpreters around the world are going to end up out of a job because a piece of software is going to be able to do that job so much more time and cost effectively. But that's going to be an outsourced type role to go apply that technology to that problem set. And once it's done, the consultant will move on and the customer will run that software and it'll change their business. And that's big. There's a lot of industries, a lot of applications out there that's going to happen to in the next 10 years. And I expect to see a whole sector of AI consulting and application engineers become a big, probably the fastest growing part of the outsourced IT industry in the next couple of years is going to be that kind of stuff.
Very interesting. Are there specific regions or countries that you find particularly promising for tech talent? And how do you navigate the challenges associated with global talent pool in general?
I'm not very well qualified to speak to that because almost all of my experience is here in the US. What little experience I have had around from a global basis, frankly, was difficult and didn't go very well, as we discussed. I'm still having good luck with my engineer in Ireland, but that's about the individual, not about the market. And I'm not very qualified to address that subject, I guess.
As we wrap up our conversation, what advice would you give to business leaders considering outsourcing as a part of their growth strategy?
Picking an outsourcing partner is very much like hiring an employee, and you need to think of them and put the same kind of expectations and boundaries around the partner that you would as if you were hiring them as an employee. You have to manage them as though they were an employee. You have to think about them as an extension of your staff. If they're building a software application for you, it becomes an almost permanent relationship because as long as you're using that software, you're going to need them to continue maintaining and supporting it. Put the same thought into the hiring and management of those resources as you would if they were your own employees.
Kevin, thanks for your insights, for your tech vision, amazing vision of the future, intercrossed with AI. It's really interesting to hear your thoughts, your ideas. You're a successful entrepreneur. I'm sure the insights you shared would be relevant and useful for many people.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for the time.
If you enjoy our discussion and want to stay updated on future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss on the latest insights and conversations from the Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in a week.